Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing good. It has been a minute since we've done air dry clay. If you've been with me more than a year, you will know how much I love this stuff. I just don't get to use it that often. Now the clay I'm using in today's video is the Das air dry clay. This is a staple. Anyone who does air dry clay pretty much uses this one. Now this is a 1 kg kit. I was actually just looking for to make sure that it is actually 1 kg, so I was having a look all over the pack and it is 1 kg. I bought this from a shop here in the UK called The Works, but you can pretty much buy it from any art store. It's pretty simple to get hold of, and Amazon. You will need some silicone tools, but you could use your fingers if you really wanted to. You need some water to be able to smooth these out as you go, and you will need your rolling pin and a craft blade. Now I am actually using my glass worktop saver. I've got a nice plain simple glass worktop saver that I use down in my kitchen when I make a cup of tea to save my wooden worktops. I've dragged it upstairs and that is what I am using to roll my clay out on, with a nice bit of orange crushed velvet behind it, just so that it looks kind of pretty, you know. First thing I'm going to do is just mold the clay. So I really want to condition the clay, slap it about a bit, kind of squeeze it, squish it, poke it, prod it, and just get it into a really nice workable state. And then I'm gonna roll it out and we are gonna make a pumpkin dish. Guys, listen. If you know me, you know how much I love air dry clay. There's something so fun about it. It brings you right back, you know, to the days when you were little and you used to play with the plasticine or the Play-Doh. There is just something so fun about it, and it's tactile. It's so hands-on and it's so messy. I love getting messy. That's what I love. And that's what I miss, you know. I miss having covered hands and anyway, look, I'm getting nostalgic here. But the best thing about air dry clay for you guys is that, you know, some of you don't do resin, some of you don't do Jesmonite or eco pores. I've even got friends here that watch my videos that don't do resin or Jesmonite. I mean, how amazing is that, guys? But anyway, if you don't do either of those, this is a perfect craft for you. And it's actually perfect for a family as well. Get the kids involved, get them, you know, get their hands in there with the clay and just make some really cool things. Now, if you wanted to, you could get a template from Google and cut it out, print it out, cut it out, lay it down onto your clay to give you this outline of a pumpkin. I just kind of went for it. I used my little micro brush tool to draw an outline, almost acting like a pencil, and then I used my craft blade to cut my pumpkin out. And again, it's not perfect. We're not going for perfection. I'm most certainly not an air dry clay professional. I just do what I do and I get the results I get, and I'm always happy with it because it's handmade. Handmade is so much fun. Once I've got my pumpkin shape, I'm just going to use some water to run my fingers over the surface to smooth it all down. And of course you can see those lines there where I, you know, made a pumpkin that was a bit squished and I wanted it a bit fatter. So you can still see the lines that I made. And every now and again, I will lift it up off of the glass and place it back down again, purely because I don't want it to get too stuck and I don't want it to reach a point where I just can't get it off the glass. Now, if you're wondering about thickness, I really just eyeballed it. I didn't want a dish that was too thick that would take weeks to dry. Also, I didn't want a dish that was paper thin that would crumble the second I pick it up. So how deep you do your dish is really up to you. And if you wanted to, you could have depth spacers either side of your clay so that you get a really nice evenness to it. I don't worry about things like that with this. This is just a really fun autumn project, and I just eyeballed it to the depth that I felt like I was happy with. Once I've done that, I then used the end of my micro brush again to draw in those pumpkin lines. Like, when you really think about it, it doesn't get any easier than this. If you are not so confident to do it freehand, then please, all you have to do is download any kind of pumpkin picture from the internet, get it into your document and then print it off and you've got yourself a template anyway. Once I've done my lines, I then use water to go in those grooves. I want it rounded. I want those edges about as rounded as you can possibly get. Again, we're not going for super high what's the word? Hyperrealism here. We're not going for hyperrealism. I am by no means a fine artist in any way, but I did not want just those score marks. I really wanted to make it more organic, more of a real kind of shape, and bring those rounded edges with my finger, just molding them round. Once I'd done that, obviously it does push your clay out and you can distort the shape of your piece. So I did end up trimming off the two sides just to bring it back to that kind of pumpkin, that nice round chunky hunky pumpkin. And once I'd done that, it was just all I had to do was smooth the edges out, because I've used my craft blade again and the edges end up being quite sharp, not sharp as in blade sharp, but 90-degree flat edges, and I didn't want that. I wanted them rounded. So a little bit more water and just working those segments on the pumpkin. I was going to say pineapple then. Working the pineapple, and then I'm going to lay it in one of Tim's hubbies, should I say, because Tim and Tin. Hubby's got these tin melamine kind of bowls, and they are perfect for air dry clay. Honestly, they pop out within a week. This only took around 4-5 days to fully dry. I leave it in my hallway upstairs. There's a nice window, lots of light getting to it, but I'm placing it down into this melamine bowl, and I'm just creating the bowl. I'm creating my pumpkin trinket dish or my pumpkin bowl. And again, you can use whatever you want. If you want it to just be a flat, completely flat tray, you could do that. If you wanted it to be really bowly, then you could get a much smaller, deeper bowl and put it in there as well. This is around 4 to 5 days later. You can tell when it's ready because it starts to come away from the edges of the bowl. It shrinks. It does shrink. So that's when you know it is ready. This is going to pop out of there so happily. And a little tap on the back of the bowl and out it came. Now this step is optional. You do not have to do this, but I figured, you know, some of my edges are a little bit dodgy. Like they're not perfect in any way. So I did just want to sand them down a bit, and I just used a kind of 360 grit just to get rid of any of those weird lumpy bumps. Honestly, I am going full on traditional orange pumpkin. You can do this any colour you want. Imagine this in pink, bright pink with glitter, like proper Cinderella pumpkin. But I am definitely going down the autumn harvest route. So I chose some orange metallic. Now I've got lots of paint from Arteza when I worked with them about 4 years ago. Still got tons of paint. And the orange has this metallic sheen to it. And I thought that would be nice. Then once I'd done the first coat, I did end up using some of the brown in those lines, in those segment lines, just to give it some depth. And again, if you really want to go all out, I'm not a fine artist, you could then put some white right down the middle of the segments so that you've got this kind of defined curve. But I'm not that good. Don't worry about your painting skills, guys. I don't have painting skills. I just thought I'll put some dark lines down in those ridges. I'll do the rest in orange, and then I'll just use my brush and I'll just paint it and blend it all in together until I am happy with the results. We are not striving for perfection here. We are striving for fun handmade projects that they're just therapeutic. They're so therapeutic, and it just makes you feel all warm and fuzzy inside that you made something like this, despite the fact that it might not be perfect. I did paint the back in a plain orange because, like, who's going to ever see the back? You don't have to paint the back, but because the sides come up, I decided it's probably best, and here it is. I absolutely love it. Once dried, I'm going to put it on my little autumn display that I've got going on in my kitchen. It's not a proper display. I've literally just been throwing everything in there that I've got. You could of course use it as a trinket dish for your jewellery. I've just thrown some pine cones in there, you know, just to show you. Next up, we are making a beautiful leaf tray. I found this absolutely huge, stunning, browned already leaf in my local woodland where I walk George, and I knew I had to have it, but it was starting to curl up. It was starting to curl up at the edges, so I kind of grabbed it and I took it home and I flattened it in between some books. It's not totally ideal because we are flattening out those details, those veins, but it's okay. It did the job. So same thing again, we are conditioning the clay, we're rolling it out to make sure it's big enough for the leaf, and then we're laying our leaf down and rolling over it to make an imprint. There was a couple of times where I thought, it's not enough, like I've flattened the leaf a little bit too much, like I've flattened all of the detail that would have come from that leaf. So in an ideal world, pick your leaves and then go straight home and print them, because honestly this was so big. This was the best leaf I could find. It was so big, but the corners were so curled, I just couldn't do it. I wanted to flatten it out, but you know, it's okay. We still have quite a decent leaf print here, and once it's in the shape of a leaf bowl, everyone will know it's a leaf, and we'll still see some of that detail. Now, remembering I am using my glass worktop saver here, so it's pretty safe for me to use my craft blade and just cut around all of the leaf. I did my absolute best to stick to the original crooked, zigzaggy kind of outline shape of this leaf, because I really wanted it to be as realistic in shape as possible. Not necessarily colour, but as realistic in shape as possible. And again, if you are doing this with the kiddos, they will have so much fun. Maybe give them a butter knife. They could do this with their butter knife. But I did the same thing again here. I felt like this felt a lot more fragile, a lot more delicate than the pumpkin bowl because of that stalk. That stalk was kind of giving me issues. So I did remove it from the glass just to make sure that it doesn't fully stick. And yeah, that stalk, I just felt like it was gonna actually fall off at this point. But trying to move it, you just have to be super careful. Now, there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't make these thicker. You could make these as thick as you want. Just know that the thicker you make it, the longer it takes to dry. So, you know, if you make one now, it could be ready by next autumn. I'm only kidding, guys. It does not take that long. But that's the reason I wanted to make thin, because they don't take as long to dry. Now, again, this is optional. I felt like I'd lost quite a lot of detail here. Like I said, the leaf print, it wasn't as good as it could have been because I flattened my leaf. You don't always have to flatten your leaf, but I needed to put some detail back in. So I used a cocktail stick just to really gently, we don't want to go all the way through. I just used a cocktail stick to go back over some of those fine details, some of those leaf veins, just to, I don't know, bring it back up a bit. Again, whether it actually made a difference or not, I don't know. I definitely was worried about this stalk, so I did add a little bit of air dry clay on the back. You can see here that I've put it upside down on a bowl, so I obviously want the leaf design to be seen, so I've put it this way around on a bowl. You could, again, put it in. You could put it inside a bowl to have it do this, but I'm showing you both ways that you can do it, and either way works perfectly well. This was only 4 days later. This cured pretty quickly and dried pretty quickly. Again, we're going to paint it, but don't think too hard. Don't think too hard on the painting. Don't think to yourself, I'm not really a good painter. I'm not sure I can do this. Trust me, I'm not either. I'm not either. The trick is splodge it on and just smudge it all over. Just splodge it on and smudge it all over. I am not here. We're not doing a fine art tutorial. If you're an artist who can really paint, I'm sure you can appreciate this more naive, because it's not naive art in a sense, but it can be classed as naive art. You can kind of put your dark browns down the center, add your yellows, add your oranges, use a big fluffy brush and just smush it, just paint it all over. What I am doing, the only thing I am doing is trying to paint from the center out. I'm not brushing my brush all over the leaf, left to right, up and down. I'm trying to brush from the center line outwards, and at least then we're going to keep some of the paints in the right order that I've put them on there. But I'm loving it already. I'm loving it so much. I think it looks pretty realistic for something that is handmade, something that is air dry clay, and we just made a few days ago. It's okay, guys. It's cool. So whatever you make, just try not to worry too much about the painting process and just do it this way. Lay your colours down and just get a big fat brush and just blend them out. It's so much fun to see the way the colours interact with each other and the way they all blend. I absolutely love it. Once I'd done that and I'd done all of the edges and I was happy, again, I just laid some colours down on the back. Not really, I'm not going out of my way to make the back particularly neat. I'm not, I'm definitely not. But a bit of orange, a bit of brown or yellow, and just, yeah, paint the back. No one's ever gonna see it. You don't have to paint the back. But here we are. I'm just using my big fluffy brush just to get that paint down and get it all over. And once that is done, we just wait for it to dry. This is what it's looking like once dry, and I love it, guys. I love it so much. Here they are together, the pumpkin and the leaf. Of course, they could be trinket trays. They also might not last forever. These are definitely not made of concrete. They are air dry clay, so the more you care for them, the better. They will most likely just live out all year on my art shelf in my living room, just so I don't have to package them away and they break or anything like that, because that would break my heart. But yeah, I hope you've really loved it, and it's definitely one for the whole family, and definitely one to get your hands stuck into if you're not into much else like resin or Jesmonite. Hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye.